All right, this is John from the After Movie Diner coming at you, as they say, or as the kids used to say back when I was a kid, I suppose. Coming at you from the streets of New York City. That's correct. I've just been to see Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. Now, I'm a pretty huge Kevin Smith fan. I even followed him down the road of some of his non-view askew movies. I actually really like Jersey Girl. I don't understand why people don't like that movie. I think Jersey Girl's really good. And I like Tusk. I think Tusk is awesome. I think Red State is one of the most underrated action horrors of the last decade. I'm a pretty big Kevin Smith fan, and I love his view askew stuff. I'm not sure how the Jay and Silent Bob stuff holds up in a weird way. Like, I watched the Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back a couple of weeks ago in sort of reminder, because I knew that I was going to go see this tonight, the Fathom events. And it's great. It's still like a ton of fun. Like, it's a totally bonkers cartoon movie, and it's a lot of fun. But it's weird. I certainly obviously wasn't laughing at it in the way that I was laughing at it when I was much younger. And, obviously there's stuff in it that nowadays is not stuff that people tend to make jokes about anymore. However, Kevin Smith has, to some extent, made himself his career, meaning yes, you might know the films, and sure, there are casual Kevin Smith fans out there, but in general, if you're a fan of Kevin Smith, you're not just a fan of his films, you're a fan of him, you're a fan of the stories he tells about his family, his friends, you're a fan of Jason Mewes, you're a fan of Brian Holleran and Jeff Anderson and, Ben Affleck and Matt Damon maybe. You're like a fan of the lives and careers and the stories and the people and things, I think. I don't know how you would, maybe you just watch Clerks and you're like, hey, Clerks is shit funny, and you just kind of, that was it. Like, you just occasionally put Clerks in and you didn't follow them down the whole last 25 years. But I think most of his fans have done. That's the assumption I'm coming to. So, especially with all the podcasting and the comic books he's written and everything else like that, it tends to be, I think, those fans tend to be the ones that have followed him this far, even if they didn't necessarily get into Tusk or Red State the way that I did, or the way that other people did. The View Askew universe still has those people out there that will always love it, right or wrong. And like all the people, or be interested in all the people who are kind of behind the View Askew universe. So the reason why I'm saying all that is because Jay and Silent Bob Reboot is a movie that is for two people. It's for those fans who, as I said, have come this far with Kevin Smith for all the reasons I just said. Not only because they like the films, but also because they like the guy. They like Kevin Smith. They know about his wife. They know about his kid, Harley Quinn. They know about his friends. They know all the stuff about the stories and things like that he tells on his podcast and on his stand-up specials and everything else. The movie is for those people. Like, much like Strike Back, which obviously had a much bigger budget, but much like Strike Back, if you have not come this far with both the characters but also the cast, this movie will not really do anything for you. And it's not meant to. But more importantly than say, oh, and by the way, I'm just crossing the world famous Park Avenue. So that's exciting. For people who don't live in New York, this is fun. Look, there's Park Avenue. I don't know whether you give a shit. Anyway, so this movie is for those guys, but it's also for Kevin Smith. Like, it's really for Kevin Smith. The movie is written, acted, directed, and about everything that matters to Kevin Smith. And you kind of think for anybody else it would be a massive masturbatory endeavor. It would be a massive, like, self-pleasuring moment to do this movie where essentially you pull together this, disparate group of fans, friends, and family and kind of string together a very loose movie. For him, though, if you've been a fan for 25 years, if you followed all this journey, it doesn't feel so self-aggrandizing, although it is in its own way very self-aggrandizing, especially because, spoilers, Kevin Smith appears as Kevin Smith in the movie and Silent Bob, and that's kind of the thing in the movie that kind of elevated to this level, as I said, of sort of slight knowing self-aggrandizing. So the movie is funny. I'm not here to say that the movie isn't funny. It's a lot of fun, and it definitely follows intentionally the same kind of vibe as Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, with all the sort of knowing gags and random cameos and weird comedy from that stuff. But the thing it tones down outside of the gay jokes, which when you watch Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back now, you're like, a little bit. It's like, oh, ouch. Were we all sitting around laughing at that in the 90s, I guess, or early 2000s when that came out? Maybe we were. So it tones that down, and it tones down a lot of the kind of gross out comedy or sexual comedy or dumb comedy. It tones that down. There's still some of it in there because obviously it's Jay and Silent Bob, but essentially it kind of tones that shit down a bit, which is good. I actually thought that was good to not have too much of that in there because, like I say, we're all much older now. If you've been following Jay and Silent Bob since Clerks, then you're probably like me, either heading into your 40s or already in your 40s. So probably good not to do too much, really dumb comedy at this point. So, but the big thing about Jay and Silent Bob Reboot that Kevin Smith's been saying, but also does come across, is that it's all about being a father. It's all about being a father. It is an absolute love letter, not just to Harley Quinn, his daughter, but also to Jason Mewes and his kid, and seeing Jason Mewes as a father. And that's why I come back to saying again that the movie is not only for Kevin Smith, but it's also for people who give a shit about Kevin Smith. It's not necessarily a movie about people who just give a shit about Jay and Silent Bob. And I can't really explain it any other way. You just have to kind of see the film. Should long-time Jay and Silent Bob fans go see the movie? I would only suggest you go see the movie if, like I say, you're also a fan of Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes. This is not a Jay and Silent Bob movie anymore. This is a Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes movie, and that's fine with me. I enjoyed it. I had a lot of good time with it. I was never bored. I laughed. There's some good shocking stuff in there, and there's some good emotional stuff in there. And on the budget he puts together another fun knockabout silly comedy. So underneath the Empire State Building, that's the Empire State Building, I'm here to say that Jay and Silent Bob, and a Wendy's, because it's America, so you can have the Empire State Building, but then you also have a Wendy's. You got to take the rough with the smooth, like I used to say. It's a bit like my bottom. Anyway, just saying that the people I would suggest go see this movie are the people who care as much about Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes as they do about Jay and Silent Bob. If that's you, and if you're in one of the cities where the roadshow is coming to, then go see it. It is a lot of fun, well worth it, and just a really nice emotional wrap up to not just the Jay and Silent Bob story, but also Clerks, even though he's now announced he's doing a Clerks 3, but Clerks, More Rats, Chasing Amy, and a little bit Dogma, but mostly those first three movies. He really kind of closes them out in a really nice way. So that's my initial feeling as I come out of the movie theater. And I don't think anyone will be surprised by the film, but I also don't think anyone's going to be massively into the movie either. I think it is literally, as he's described it himself, and he's not lying, a post-heart attack movie. he was had a heart attack, he was about to die, and he was like, what would I like to... It's a family reunion. It's the best way to put it. It's a family reunion. If you care about the family, you're going to love it. If you don't, and you just want to see some, weed jokes and knob jokes, it's fine, but just rewatch Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. Don't bother going to Reboot. But if you love the family, go bask in the glow of Kevin Smith's reunion.